Christian Horner, the man who transformed Red Bull Racing from an energy drink marketing experiment into Formula One royalty, was gone. Not retiring, not stepping aside, fired. Adrian Newey, the aerodynamic genius who designed every Red Bull championship-winning car, had already announced his departure. Jonathan Wheatley, the sporting director who orchestrated their race strategies, was heading to Audi. Helmut Marko, Red Bull's 81-year-old motorsport advisor and the iron fist behind their driver program, suddenly found himself under a gag order. The man known for his brutally honest assessments and controversial comments was told by Red Bull's Austrian headquarters to stop talking to the media. Fix this mess, or we lose Max. Think about that for a moment. Marko had been with Red Bull since day one. He discovered Vettel, nurtured Verstappen, and built the most ruthless driver academy in motorsport. Now he was being muzzled like a rookie who'd spoken out of turn. The old guard wasn't just changing, it was being systematically dismantled. Marko tried to put on a brave face about Mackey's appointment. Lawrence's varied activities, including later at the FIA and Ferrari, mean that he has everything he needs to lead a top team with an expert hand, he said in one of his final public statements. But between the lines, you could sense the uncertainty. This wasn't the Red Bull he'd helped build. Picture this. Max Verstappen had just clinched his fourth consecutive world championship. Red Bull seemed untouchable, and then, boom, everything started crumbling. The official statement was cold, clinical. They thanked Horner for his tireless and exceptional work, and that was it. No explanation, no farewell tour, nothing. Just emptiness where the team principal's office used to buzz with activity. The timing couldn't have been more shocking. Here was a team that had dominated Formula One like few others in history. Under Horner's watch, they turned Sebastian Vettel into a four-time champion between 2010 and 2013, then repeated the magic with Verstappen from 2021 onwards. But beneath the champagne celebrations and victory laps, something dark was brewing. The whispers had started earlier in 2024. Allegations of inappropriate behavior surfaced against Horner, claims he vehemently denied. An internal investigation cleared him, but the damage was done. The shadow of scandal hung over the team like storm clouds before a race. Some say it was the beginning of the end. Others point to October 2022, when Red Bull co-founder Dietrich Mateschitz died, leaving a power vacuum that would eventually swallow Horner whole. Bernie Ecclestone, the former F1 Supremo who'd seen it all in his decades running the sport, was stunned. It's as if Horner had murdered someone, he said, his voice carrying the weight of genuine shock. When Bernie Ecclestone is surprised by Formula One politics, you know something seismic has happened. Into this chaos stepped Laurent Mekies, promoted from Racing Bulls to become Red Bull Racing's new CEO. The Frenchman brought credentials from the FIA and Ferrari, but he was walking into a hurricane. The team wasn't just losing its leader, it was hemorrhaging talent at an alarming rate. Meanwhile, Max Verstappen watched all of this unfold with growing concern. The triple world champion had a contract through 2028, but contracts in Formula One are worth about as much as yesterday's weather forecast when performance clauses kick in. And buried in Verstappen's deal was a crucial detail. If Red Bull fell to fourth in the Constructors' Championship, certain exit options would activate. The human cost was even more dramatic. These weren't just employees leaving. These were the architects of a dynasty. Horner had been there since 2005, when Red Bull bought Jaguar Racing and everyone laughed at the energy drink company playing with race cars. He'd proven them all wrong, building something that challenged Ferrari and Mercedes at their own game. Now, as the Belgian Grand Prix approached, Red Bull faced their first race weekend under new leadership. Mekies would have to steady a ship that was taking on water from every direction. The garage dynamics, usually so precise and confident, felt different. Engineers who'd worked under Horner for decades suddenly answered to a new boss. Mechanics wondered if their jobs were safe. Even the drivers seemed unsettled. Sergio Perez, Verstappen's teammate, found himself in an even more precarious position. Already under pressure for underperforming, he now lacked Horner's protection. The Mexican driver knew that in times of upheaval, the weakest links get cut first. But perhaps the most telling sign of Red Bull's transformation came from the paddock itself. Where once other teams looked at Red Bull with a mixture of envy and respect, now there was something else: opportunity. McLaren smelled blood in the water. Mercedes circled like predators. Even Ferrari, dealing with their own dramas, sensed a shift in the balance of power. The question hanging over everything was simple but profound. Was this the end of Red Bull's era of dominance? Or could they somehow emerge stronger from the ashes? History suggested that Formula One dynasties rarely survived such fundamental upheavals. Williams never recovered from losing Adrian Newey in the 1990s. McLaren's dominance evaporated when Ron Dennis stepped back. Yet, Red Bull had defied conventional wisdom before. They'd entered Formula One as outsiders and conquered it. They'd lost key personnel before and bounced back. But this felt different. This wasn't evolution, it was revolution. The kind that usually ends with heads rolling and empires falling. As the Formula One circus prepared to roll into Spa-Francorchamps, one of the sport's most iconic venues, Red Bull Racing stood at a crossroads. The next few races wouldn't just determine championships. They determined whether Red Bull could survive its own success. The team that had once made winning look easy now faced the hardest challenge of all, proving they could win without the very people who taught them how.